Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Scott Manny coming to you live with with a little bit of a college football show. I want to thank you guys for taking the time with me here in the wee hours of this morning on this Friday morning. We're just a little over 24 hours away. There are not very many intriguing matchups this week. No ranked versus ranked opponents at all. I checked the whole top 25 calendar, nothing. But I do have 3 games I do want to talk about just real quick, and I want to thank you guys for being with me. We're just going to go ahead and just jump right into it. Number 6, Ohio State faces Indiana at 12 noon. This is a big weekend for Ohio State. Justin Fields has really proven himself. He went for 224 yards last week, and he also has 458 yards passing on the season. J.K. Dobbins last weekend had the weekend of his life. He ran for 141 yards last Saturday and a 42-0 shutout over Cincinnati. Last Saturday, the Buckeyes took the Battle of I-71 over the Cincinnati Bearcats, and what a day it was. Now, everybody's asking, is Justin Fields a competitor for the Heisman? I'm not going to talk Heisman hype yet. It's way too early for that. But it's not too early to be talking about Ohio State's first Big Ten test of the season. They have to travel to Bloomington to face the Indiana Hoosiers on the road. And yes, Indiana has a double threat at quarterback. Michael Premix Jr. He's passed for over 523 yards this season. Peyton Ramsey, 226 yards himself. And they shut out Eastern Illinois. They shut out Eastern Illinois, I think, 52-0 last Saturday. So, this is the first Big Ten test of the season for Ohio State and their new coach, Ryan Day. We'll see how Ohio State does, and the bottom line is this. Will we see how will Justin Fields do on the road? There's a lot of questions to be answered there. However, Ohio State's a 15-point favorite. They should have no problem meeting that spread, but don't let Indiana fool you. They are 2-0. Let's see how they do against Ohio State at home. And that's going to be the game that everybody's going to be talking about. And that's the early game. I got 2 more that I really want to talk about. But the bottom line is this. Ohio State, if they take the Big Ten opener, that's going to be something that's really going to jump them up. But everybody's been asking me all week, why in the world, with Ohio State shutting out Cincinnati 42-0, how in the world did they take a drop from number 5 to number 6 in the polls? Everybody's been asking me that. Well, I look at it like this. The SEC, the Southeast Conference, somebody from the Southeast Conference is paying off somebody from the pollsters. But I'll tell you what, Ohio State's weak schedule could hurt them again. That remains to be seen. But I will say this. I see no problem with Ohio State taking care of Indiana at all. Now, the next game I want to talk about, I want to stay in the Big Ten. But this time, this is a Big 10, Big 12 matchup. The battle of the state of Iowa. Number 19 Iowa faces Iowa State. Nate Stanley, he's been the best thing that Iowa's had in a long time. 486 yards passing this season, and a 30-0 shutout over Rutgers has really proven that Iowa deserves to be in the top 20. Micah Sargent, 150 yards rushing last week in the shutout win. Imar Marcetti, he has 148 receiving yards with 3 touchdowns to go with it. And that was an Iowa's opener. And that was an Iowa's big victory over Rutgers, I mean. So, I'm just glad Ohio State doesn't have to play Iowa. But they have to play that team up north here in a few weeks. I haven't forgot about that yet. And I'll address that when the time comes. But for Iowa State, last Saturday they had to come from behind to beat Northern Iowa 29-26 in triple overtime. Brock Rudy has 278 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Deshaunte Jones had 14 catches for 126 yards last week. It's early in the season, I grant you. But this is a battle. This is a battle for the state. I think there's like a corn trophy or something up for grabs. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. But I will say this. If Iowa State can knock off Iowa, that's going to throw the Big Ten West into a tailspin. And I know it's only the 3rd week of the season, but it's not too early to be talking about action in the top 25 poll. Iowa coach Kirk Ferentz says he's got his guys ready. We'll have to wait and see on that. That 30-0 victory over Rutgers may have just helped Iowa when they get ready for Iowa State. Now, Iowa State's had some struggles in the Big 12. It's early in the season, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But Iowa State, that is going to be a game well worth the watch. Now, the third and final game I am going to talk about. This is a 7:30 battle on the ACC network. Florida State versus number 25 Virginia. Florida State is coming off of a 45-44 overtime victory over Louisiana Monroe. The week before that, they got embarrassed by Boise State. James Blackman, he has 6 touchdowns total for 609 yards. Cam Akers, 51 rushing attempts, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns. Demarin Terry, 10 receptions, 155 yards. I know it's very early in the season, but I will say this, though. This is going to be a game that makes me think back to about 1995. I'll get to that here in a minute, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. Now, keep in mind, Florida State, they were almost going to be going into this game 0-2. Had they not beaten Louisiana Monroe in overtime, they would have been 0-2 because Boise State humiliated them in the first week of the season. And Virginia, they're coming off of a huge 52-17 victory over William and Mary. This is going to be an ACC classic. Bryce Perkins of Virginia, he's been the only offensive production that Virginia has. 373 yards, 4 touchdowns, 25 carries, 112 yards on the season. But it all boils down to this. Which defense will show up? Which defense will answer the bell? That remains to be seen. I know it's kind of odd that I'm talking about a game like this, but it's something worth thinking about. Let's go back to November 2nd, 1995 for just a second. You got to remember back in the mid-90s when Florida State was just running away with the ACC. They had a choke, they had a stranglehold on the ACC conference. One night in Charlottesville, Virginia was ranked 24. Florida State came into town. And I'll tell you what, back then, it was like a who's who. I mean, Florida State, they had Danny Cannell. And, he had a great career at Florida State. They also had Warwick Dunn. He had a great career in the NFL. Virginia, they had Tiki Barber. Tiki Barber, one of the famous Barber brothers of the NFL. I'll say this, though. I watched the replay of that game the other night on the ACC network. And what happened in that game was totally different. In the first half, Florida State threw for over 300 yards. Then Coach Bobby Bowden decided, I'm going to stick with the passing game because I thought that was a mistake. Florida State should have ran the ball. They had a great running back in Warwick Dunn. But Bobby Bowden was so interested in Danny Cannell's over 300 yards passing. And that came back to con him later in the game. Warwick Dunn thought he had a touchdown with just a couple of seconds left, but he was this short. Virginia upset Florida State. The ACC was turned upside down. Florida State's national title hopes were gone. Excuse the little history lesson, but I'm going to tell you this, though. Virginia is ranked in the top 25 at number 25, I grant you they're 25. But Florida State, if they could beat Virginia, that would be a real help. Because right now, Florida State is struggling. They got embarrassed by Boise State 2 weeks ago. Then last Saturday, they barely escaped over Louisiana Monroe, a game they should have won easily. Well, look what Virginia's done. They beat up William and Mary 52-17. I know it's kind of odd I talk about this, but look, it boils down to this. There are no ranked versus ranked matchups this week in college football. None. Zilch. Zero. Nada. Goose egg. Donut. You get the adjectives. So I look at it like this. Could we be in for a boring Saturday? We don't know. But I'm sure there's probably going to be some upsets along the way. And if there are, I'll let you know about it on Tuesday night. When I tell you about when I give you a complete wrap up of the games, and when I also hand out my game balls and hand out my Game of the Day award. Those are going to be the hard ones. And if there's no major upsets and every game turns out to be a blowout, I'll still have a show on Tuesday night, but I may mix it up a little bit. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do. But the bottom line is this. This weekend in college football could be a little dull. But stick around but the following week, hopefully everything will get back to normal. But you know what? I know it's a short show. I know it's a short and sweet to the point. It's just a small little thing. However, we could see some upsets. But will it happen? Only time will tell that. And that's all I have to say here in the wee hours of this morning. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me here I'll go ahead and post this video on my YouTube page. It'll also be available on Facebook if you want to see it there. But also too, if you go to my Facebook page, please give me a shout out, give me a friend request, and I'll put you in the Scott Manning Sports Talk group. I want to thank you guys so much for being with me. You guys have a great night, and God bless. Goodbye, everybody, and thank you.